Hey, my name is Thom Rainer. This is the Church Answers podcast. I am solo. I'm alone. I usually have a podcasting partner. For Rainer on Leadership, it's Sam Rainer. For Church Answers podcast, it's Jess Rainer. I do have a third son, middle son, Art, but he has his own podcast, and we interview him from time to time. He has the More Than Money podcast. So, I love working with my sons, but no son is here today. He's on vacation. The youngest son is on vacation. Now, I want to give him credit. He had planned to actually do the podcast from where he's on vacation. And then he did an internet speed test. And quite frankly, I don't know if we could have gotten his voice in, much less anything on video. It was so slow. I said, nope, I'm doing this solo. And you just enjoy your vacation. And you just think about me in my elderly status, having to do all the work that I've asked you to do. But don't feel guilty about it at all. Before we get into this whole idea of unforced errors in churches, I just want to say thank you to Cheney and Associates, the accounting firm for the church. I want to mention one thing about them that maybe we've mentioned once or twice in the past, but I want to talk about it again. They have their own podcast called the Church Advisory Podcast. The Church Advisory Podcast. And we'll put it in the show notes. And I know not everybody has show notes. So sometimes we'll say it's in the show notes, and y'all come back and say, I never say show notes. What does that mean? Well, anytime if you hear something and you cannot find it, just give us an email, info@churchanswer. Say, I heard about this on the podcast. How do I get it? Some of you know where show notes are and how to get them for YouTube, and maybe if you're on our site. But again, we know that some of you are listening. You may be running and listen to this podcast, or you may be in your car and you don't have access to it. But I really think that you would like the Church Advisory Podcast. I almost call it Church Answers Podcast. You can see it. They have a YouTube address on it. They started off on YouTube. Steve Cheney and his team are the leaders of that podcast, and they're doing a great job. I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about Cheney and Associates at the end of this podcast, but just want to introduce that to you so you'll have that information. Okay, we've done a lot of podcasts now on the Unforced Error. We have a couple of more after this one, and then we're done, and we'll be going over other topics. But this unforced error metaphor comes from sports, tennis in particular. It's where you make a mistake that is not made by the opponent. In other words, you do something inadvertent, you slip, you're not thinking, and you just do something and you say, why did I do that? That's called an unforced error. And so the Unforced Error series for the church is just along that same type of topic. What is it that we sometimes do, or in today's episode, don't do for the church? And this one is rarely done in churches. Now, when I mean rarely, there are roughly 360,000 Protestant churches. I would be surprised if many more than 1%, say 3,500 to 4,000 churches, actually do this in the course of a year. That's an unforced error, in my opinion. Now, I've never done the survey, so I don't know if it's really that few, but I think it is based upon the only anecdotal evidence I have. When we do a consultation, and we've done hundreds and thousands of them in different types, we rarely come across a church that's regularly doing this type of secret guest survey. So that's what we want to talk about in the Unforced Error series. We want to say, if you're not doing it, that is the secret guest survey. If you're not doing it, then you are missing out on a great opportunity. Okay, I want to go over some points on the secret guest survey. You know me, this isn't necessarily listing, but that's the way that I think. I think in a way of just one point after another. So I'm going to try to just communicate that. You'll probably, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll probably see some of these things in the lower thirds as well. So let's start off with this question. What is a secret guest? A secret guest is someone who visits the church anonymously and provides honest outsider feedback. Let me say that again. A secret guest is someone who visits the church anonymously and provides honest outsider feedback. I got to tell you, folks, secret guest surveys, secret guests are absolutely phenomenal. for the church member, the church leaders, to see things that they normally do not see, to understand things that they thought were fine and aren't, or maybe to just simply have an opportunity to see through eyes that you have never seen things before. So it's someone visiting the church anonymously and giving you their insights into what they experiences. So second point I want to make on this, churches often become blind to their own flaws, to their own ways of doing things, and fresh eyes get to reveal things that regular attendees no longer notice. Let me give you an example. I did a consultation with a church in Texas, and part of the consultation, I don't do the secret guest much anymore, but I decided to do this one. So I came in on a Sunday for this particular church, and then actually started the consultation on Monday. And so I went to the church, and one of the things that happened to me is I didn't know where to go. I'm serious. Church was averaging about 600 in attendance, so definitely not a small church. And when I said I didn't know where to go, I'm not talking about, I knew how to get there. I had the GPS, I had the address. Their website was fine. But I parked. I was a little bit late, my fault, and I didn't know where to walk into the building. I'm serious. And there was no apparent entrance. And this is not an exaggeration. It's a true story. I had to pull on 3 different doors to finally get in. And when I got in, I was in the wrong place. And someone kindly showed me where the worship center was. It was awkward, if not embarrassing. And so when I made that report to the church, you could tell the leaders just kind of looked around and said, "You didn't know how to get in the church?" No. So, well, everybody knows where the door is. Guess what? I wasn't part of everybody. I didn't know where they come into the front. And if I had come a little bit earlier, perhaps I would have seen people walking in that direction. They didn't have an outside greeter. Someone in the parking lot. They didn't have an obvious entrance for the church. And I can't tell you how many churches don't have that obvious entrance. And you're waiting around to see if somebody else is going to go through that door. And you're just hoping that you can follow them in that door. Well, that's just one example of what a secret guest can do. We as church leaders, in anything that we do, in anything that we do as leaders, in anything that we do as church leaders, we can become blind to our own flaws, and fresh eyes can reveal the issues that regular attendees no longer see. This is one of the reasons why I am so insistent, in a good way, that churches have secret guest surveys on a regular basis. So, third point, what are some of the areas that secret guest surveys can point out? They can point out signage, the greeters, cleanliness, the clarity of the service. If you have children, how easy it is to check them in, how safe it seems for them if you let them off in an area where the parents will not be with them. So many things. And we have our Secret Service guests. We actually make it a part of any on-site consultation. We have them fill out a form and they check it off, and they may write in some things on that. And obviously, the church members do not know who these people are. That would defeat the purpose of a secret guest survey. And so they address these issues that, quite frankly, most of us members who are going to this church on a regular basis do not see or do not begin to notice. So, what should we do about secret guest surveys? How should we institute them in our church? I'm going to tell you, but before I do that, I got to tell you about Upward. Upward is one of my most, I got 2 of my favorite ministry partners here on this podcast. Cheney and Associates, the accounting firm for the church, and Upward. I knew Upward way back when it was primarily just basketball. And while you didn't have to have a gym, you had to have a place to play basketball. And it's still a very strong ministry that they have. But they've added so many. Now, I'm not going to try to say my favorite word, pickleball, and talk about their other new one that they're offering. But they do pickleball. But they also have running. They have 5K. This is probably the easiest one for a church that's never used Upward to utilize. I mean, all you need is one leader, and they're going to provide you everything. And boy, can you reach the community through a 5K. It's been amazing how many people will sign up for it. Usually, if you have a modest entrance fee, the small amount that is a charge for the ministry, you can recoup through that. So it is actually a very, very good ministry. Simple to start, builds a strong connection in the community. Upward does everything for you. Give them a call, reach out to them. Go to upward.org/runcoach, upward.org/runcoach, or just connect with them on their website. Make an appointment, no obligation whatsoever, and hear and see what they have. Great team. Just an incredible team. I have had the opportunity to interview the CEO on this podcast. I've worked a long time with Jennifer McCraw, who's head of marketing with them. The whole team is just great, and I am blessed, and Church Answers is blessed to have that relationship. Back to the secret guest. What else do we know about a secret guest? Well, I would recommend a minimum. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm putting up the finger one. If you're not watching on YouTube, I just put up the finger one. Okay, one finger, index finger just went up. Number one, one visit a year at a minimum. One visit a year. In other words, get someone to look at your church at least annually. It is so easy. Once you get the form in your hands and you give it to them and just say, hey, fill this out. Don't fill it out. Don't be writing while you're walking through the church. But when you leave, take a few minutes afterwards and fill it out and send it to us. Maybe we can talk by phone or by Zoom and fill it out. And let's just find out what you had to say. Okay? Just as simple as that. I like 2 visits a year. When in my last pastorate, where I was a real pastor, I alternated. I had someone who was a regular church goer to do it, but not at our church. They'd never been to our church. And every 6 months, I would have someone who's a regular church goer come into our church. Every other 6 months, I would have someone who is not in church. And, it's really easy to do. You, like an unchurched person, you meet someone, maybe you know someone at work, and you say, hey, you're not a regular attender at church, are you? Oh, good. And they're looking at you like, why are you saying good that you're not a regular attender at church? I want you to be our secret guest. Hey, if you do that, just as a gift of thanks, here, we'll give you a $25 Starbucks card, or I'll take you to lunch, just something. But you let them know that, hey, you can really help us if you do this. I got to where I like taking people to lunch after they had gone through there, and I talked over the experience that they had as I looked at their results. Always, always, always learn something new. And something else that happened in the midst of all of this is one unchurched person got so excited about our church that he started coming to church and ended up becoming a follower of Christ. I mean, from secret guest, agnostic, I think he was agnostic, at least he was unchurched anyway, secret guest, agnostic, to born again Christian active in a church because he was a secret guest. I'm not promising that, but I am saying it's one way to have a small outreach within your church. So I do recommend 1 or 2 visits a year. Just tell them, hey, answer the questions on the survey. If you can't answer questions, that's fine. Give us your honest opinion. Don't put your name to it. We're doing all of this in anonymity. We will share it with our staff, but we're not going to tell them who you are or what you said other than what's in the form itself. So I do like the idea of having two a year, one with an unchurched person, one with the church. But listen, if I'm correct that only about 1% of churches actually do a secret guest in a year, I would be happy if every church just did one. It just opens your eyes to things that you would not think of. I got to tell you, this is a little off. It's not off the beaten path too much, but it's a little bit off the beaten path. So when I felt God calling me to vocational ministry, I was doing very well in the business world, but knew I had to go. And back in those days, the prehistoric days, when I went into decided I was going to answer the call to ministry, there was no internet, and so there was no such thing even as correspondence school for seminary. So if you wanted to go to a seminary, you moved. And I took my whole family of 4. Jess would be born a year later from the time we left. And we moved from Alabama to Louisville, Kentucky, where I would become a student for 6 years. Show you how slow I am. It took me 6 years to get 2 degrees, but I finally got out. Kind of a side story to that. I'd come back years later to be dean of that same seminary, but that's not part of the story. So I left. We didn't have any money other than the money we had from the sale of our home. We had a little bit of savings, the money we had from the sale of our home. And quite frankly, I can't say I was desperate, but I knew I had to provide. And I knew I had to provide quickly. So I just started going up and down different streets, applying for jobs near my home in Louisville, Kentucky, or near the apartment we had at seminary. And the first place to give me a job, I said, once I get a job, I'm going to take it, was Famous Recipe Fried Chicken. I started at a fast food. And they didn't even know if I was qualified enough to run the register, so they had me as janitor. So I was janitor. I went from vice president of a bank to janitor for a small fast food restaurant and started working for them. Well, here's how the story connects. Finally, a bank found out about me and recruited me to work 30 hours a week for them, which I was glad to do. And so I left my fast food job. And the manager, as I was leaving, said, "Hey, would you like to be a secret guest for Famous Recipe?" I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, you have to commit to come at least once. We hopefully come twice a month, and you'll give a valuation of your experience. And every time you do, we'll send you a free gift card for your whole family to buy Famous Recipe fried chicken meal." I want to tell you that it wasn't just the fried chicken that was causing me to salivate. It was an opportunity to have a little extra income for my family. So I said, "Sure." My first experience as a secret guest was at a chicken fast food restaurant, Famous Recipe on Brownsboro Road in Louisville, Kentucky. I wonder if it's still there. So those of you living in the Louisville area, you can let me know. But I learned things about, okay, who greets friendly, who looks you in the eye, how quick is the service, how nice is the food, how clean is the place. They asked me every time to stop by the restroom, check it out. I guess those people, when I would come in twice a month, thought that I was there just to use the restroom and get a piece of chicken. That was it. But I reported back. I was a secret guest. Okay, that was a long traverse down another path. Let's get back to the rest of the story. Simple observations from a first-time perspective will often lead to some of your most impactful improvements in your church. I'm serious. What someone sees that everybody else does not see because they're seeing the same thing over and over again, you can have some of your most impactful changes. It can change your worship service. It might affect your preaching. It can change your facilities. So much. Your greeter ministries. I could go on and on and on. So much. It can be some of the most impactful change in your church. I don't know why everybody doesn't do a secret guest at least once a year. It's almost no cost to it. And it's an opportunity to touch and reach out to other people as well. So what's the unforced era? One of the most efficient, economic, and perhaps even impactful ministries in your church is that most churches, maybe as many as 99%, do not do a secret guest in the course of a year. That's the unforced era. I'll tell you what's not an unforced era is when you decide that Cheney and Associates are going to be your accounting firm. I wish people would not ask the question. They're very affordable, but I wish you wouldn't ask how much are they. What you really need to ask is, what is the investment, because it's going to make such a difference in the church. You ever spent your money on something and you say, "I don't know how I did without that"? Well, that's how churches feel when they go with Cheney and Associates. I don't know how we did without them. And it becomes just one of those things that you say, this is one of the best decisions and investments we have ever made. Cheney and Associates, they are the accounting firm for the church. They just do churches. They do over 1,100 churches, and they're the best in the business. We love that they're our partner. So to Steve Cheney and his team, thank you for being a part of the Church Answers family. You have been for years, and we continue to thank God for you and for the ministry that you have and for the difference you're making in churches. Well, we're going to continue with two more of these unforced eras. I hope my son will be back so that I don't have to carry this all by myself. I know it's kind of pathetic. I can't do 20, 25-minute podcast all by myself, but I'm so used to having someone to banter with. It'll be good to have him back. But he has been on vacation and he will be returning, and I'll be back here as well. So thank you again for being a part of the Church Answers podcast. 2 more podcasts on the Unforced Error series. We'll see you or hear from you then.